Okay, so today we are going to be doing my July wrap-up, talking all the books that I read in the month of July. But first, before we do, a quick shout out to my Discord server. Whether you want to do buddy reads, look at advanced video viewings, or other things as well, I have a Discord server open up at the moment for you guys to come along and join us in some wonderful discussions, all related to books. I would love to have your company over there. In the description below, I do have the link, so please do feel free to come along and join us. But now, jumping right into the monthly wrap, let's put the stats on the screen in 3, 2, 1, go. So, for the month of July, I read a total of 13 books, comprising of 3 LGBTIQ+, 2 romance, 2 fantasy, 2 sci-fi, 2 classic, 1 mystery, and 1 thriller. To my age groups, I read 5 YA, 5 adult, and 3 middle grades. For my lengths, no tomes this month, but I did read 3 3/4 tomes, 5 half tomes, and 5 novellas. To my star ratings, I had a really good month this month, you guys. I had 5 5 stars, 6 4 stars, and 2 3 stars. So let's jump right into all the books that I read in the month of July. The first book that I read in the month of July was this book, Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is book number 2 in the Nevermore series. I have done a spoiler-free and spoiler review of this, so feel free to check that out. My overall thoughts on this book was that it was just as whimsical and wondrous as book number 1. I absolutely love this series. I've been looking for a middle grade series that will hold up to me as much as the Harry Potter series, and I definitely feel like the Nevermore series is that series. I gave this book 5 stars. Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a YA LGBTIQ+ book, and I gave this book 5 stars. So we follow 2 male characters, although it is singular perspective. We follow the son of the first female president, and we also follow a prince who is in line to become king one day. So this is kind of like a royal LGBTIQ+ romance read. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed my time with this book. I have a spoiler-free review for this book as well. Just really, really enjoyable. 5 stars. Roomies by Christina Lauren. This is an adult romance book, adult straight romance, unlike LGBTIQ+, just to make that differentiation there, and I gave this book 4 stars. So we follow a woman by the name of Holland who has become a little bit obsessed with a musical busker at a railway station. She even schedules her time to catch the train around when he'll be there so she can see him every day. It just so happens that Holland has an uncle who works in the theatre, and one of the members of the orchestra for that theatre has left, and she gets Calvin that job in the theatre. This is not a spoiler because it happens really early on, and there comes about a problem, which is that Calvin is not an American citizen, so he can't be paid without a green card. So Holland and Calvin end up getting married so that he can get paid. I really appreciated Christina Lauren's take on the marriage for the sake of a green card trope. And if you're looking for an adult romance that is more than just a romance, then I highly recommend Roomies. Lucky in Love, sorry about the glare there, by Casey West. This is a YA, another straight romance, but it just so happens to be YA. P.S. I Like You last year, and this was my only romance book that I read last year, which is what kind of forced me to create a goal for myself to read 6 straight romance books this year. I gave this book 4 stars. I also gave this book 4 stars. I just love Casey West as an author. So we're following a girl by the name of Maddie who goes and buys a lottery ticket as her way to enter adulthood. Turns out she is the big winner. She wins over $50 million. What this book does incredibly well, and mad props to Casey West for doing this really well, is it takes a really good look at how people around you change once they find out that you have won a ton of money. And I really really appreciated that. I gave it 4 stars. Maddie is the single most humble protagonist I have ever read. Date Me, Bryson Keller by Kevin Van Wy. This is an LGBTIQ plus YA book. This book was absolutely fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. What I love about this book, I'll tell you the premise in a moment, but what I really love about this book is that this book to me reads like a straight romance just with 2 guys, which I love because most of the LGBTIQ plus books that I've read so far, whether I liked them or didn't like them, they all seem to have one thing in common, which was they needed to have some hard-hitting contemporary issue. This book is literally an LGBTIQ plus male-male romance. It reads as a romance, which was just fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. So it is a really warm, comfortable, cozy type read. Let's just say the book starts off with our protagonist, whose name is Kai, being at a party before school starts back up again for the new year. The most popular boy in school is at that party. His name is Bryson Keller. Bryson is dared by one of his jock buddies to date anyone that asks him for a week. Kai, jokingly, says, in that case, date me, Bryson Keller. And Bryson says, well, okay. And they do. And it's just a really, really beautiful book. The first 3 quarters of this book is just, it's just lovely. I just really, really appreciated what Kevin Van Wy did with this book. I think that, you know, we all have our memories of what things were like back in high school and, you know, the most popular guy and how he might be, how he might act and behave and stuff. But Bryson Keller, oh my goodness, I wish I went to school with him because he's just an all-round awesome dude. This is Kevin Van Wy's debut book. I can't wait for his next one. Killer, which is book number 6 in the Pretty Little Liars book series, or to be more specific, this is Pretty Little Liars Era 2, book number 2. I gave this book 4 stars. We follow 4 girls. 5 girls end up having a sleepover, and at the following day, one of the girls has gone missing. Then we have an unknown antagonist known as A, who is trying to stalk the remaining girls, and we spend the series trying to work out who A is. Look, it's okay. I feel like the first 3 quarters of every book in this series are meandering, and then the final quarter leaves you on a really good cliffhanger. So we'll see how we go. I am continuing on with the series. I'm going to get through the first 2 eras and decide what I do from there. And now it's time to enter 3-star territory. Love, Simon, otherwise known as Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Okay. This book follows Simon, who is in an anonymous emailing relationship with another guy. Simon refers to himself in the emailing relationship as Jacques, and he's emailing a guy who calls himself Blue. Jacques and Blue both know that each other are gay. They both know that they go to the same high school, but they are very careful not to give any more specifics about each other because they don't want to know who each other is. They just want to help each other out with what they're going through, both of them being closeted gay guys. So I thought that this book was good. I just think for me, personally, I couldn't help but give this 3 stars because it's done something that to me has been done to death. I'm really kind of overseeing this theme in books, and that is the whole coming out trope. Please don't get me wrong. I think that this is perfectly targeted YA LGBTIQ+. There are many teens out there who go through the whole coming out experience, and if you know of someone who is struggling to come out at the moment, or if you are someone that's struggling to come out at the moment, I give you big, big hugs because I've been there, I've done that, I know it's not easy. I wish I had literature to fall back on that could have assisted me through that process, and I think that Love, Simon will help anyone out who is looking to come out but is afraid to. I think Becky Albertalli covered the trope well, and I think she looked at both sides of the polarity as far as people, how they respond and dealt with the situation rather well. I think it was very well researched. But for me, with where I'm at in my life, being an adult and just reading coming out stories pretty much for all of my YA LGBTIQ+ books, I'm just getting over it. And unfortunately, that did affect my rating because I feel it's become a cliche at this point. And my only other 3-star book, unfortunately, was one one of my classics for the month, and that was very, very sadly The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So this is an adult classic. So we are following a man by the name of Dorian who is the most beautiful man in all the land of England, and he sits for an artist who does a beautiful painting of him, and he wishes to never age so that he can grow old and look terrible compared to how he looks now. It's a short book, so I can't say much else without spoiling it, but there are a lot of things that I have to say about this book. I was going to review this book. I had so many plans to do a review for this book, and I walked away from this book with a blah feeling. So I wasn't deeply upset or aggrieved by this book, but I also wasn't deeply fond of this book. And because I ended up being so blah about the book, by the time I got to the end, I decided not to review this book. So this book will not be reviewed on my channel. I had seen the film about a year ago prior to reading this book, and I loved the film. I think the film is the way to go if you want to experience this. My opinion, watch the film. The film is so much better. But as for the book itself, I just wasn't a fan of it. I appreciate Oscar Wilde and everything he went through with this book, because Oscar Wilde went through a lot with this book and with the publication of this book, to the point that he actually served some jail time because of this book, which is really sad. So I have a lot of love for what he did and for what he went through, and he paved the way for LGBTIQ plus authors to come. I appreciate that, but I just did not appreciate the book. There's a lot of exposition in this book that I didn't like, and the second half, it just didn't grip me. I really wanted it to, but it just didn't. I liked the first half though. I wished it ended after the first half, because the first half was just a lot of fun. The next book that I read was this book, White Sand Volume Number 2. I'm so sorry about the glare. White Sand Volume Number 2 by Brandon Sanderson. This is an adult fantasy graphic novel comic book. Okay, in my last video, I believe, in the rapid fire video tag video that I did recently, I was talking about the fact that I really struggle to read graphic novels / comic books, so I listened to the White Sand series on audiobook. I listened to the graphic audio version. They did an absolutely amazing job. We are following a man who is living in a world that's filled with sand. The magic system is about sand manipulation, and there's a lot of politics. And I love it. But I gave this book 5 stars, which is the second 5 stars I've given in a row to the White Sand series. I definitely want to reread the White Sand series at some point. But anyway, I'm wrapping this up with the final book, White Sands Volume 3, next month. Animorphs, book number 3, The Encounter by K.A. Applegate. I'm really trying to keep the glare away. I'm trying. There we go. Okay. This is a middle grade sci-fi book, the 3rd book in the Animorphs series. I have a goal to read the first 5 books in the Animorphs series, so I will be concluding that goal in August when I read the 5th one. The 3rd book was fantastic. It defied logic for me, and let me explain why. If anyone were to ask me, Mr. Francy, are you a plot-driven reader or a character-driven reader? Had you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said, huh? But ever since being on BookTube, I've come to learn a whole lot of different things. I am absolutely a plot-driven reader, and most of the time when I read character-driven books, they get a really low rating from me. This was a character-driven book. Undoubtedly, this was a character-driven book, but it got 5 stars from me because it was fantastic. It really helped us to learn a lot more and gain a lot more knowledge about one of the characters. And I think this is going to bode well for the series as a whole, as the more we learn about each of the individual characters that we follow that are the Animorphs, the more invested we can become for the heavy-hitting stuff that I'm sure is going to happen down the line with this series as a whole. Animorphs book number 4, The Message by K.A. Applegate. Middle grade sci-fi, I gave this book 4 stars. Unlike with book 3, which was character-driven, book 4 goes back to being plot-driven. Books 1 and 2 are plot-driven, so book 3 is the odd man out. We follow Cassie in this book, and I really wish we had learned more about her character than we did. But I will say, without saying what happens, that the way this book ended was so good. I recommend the series. Like, the first 4 books so far, I've either given them 5 or 4 stars. So I think they're really, really good. I'm going to read book 5 in August. So if you want to join me, click on the Discord link in the description below. For The Little Mermaid, beautiful cover, by Hans Christian Andersen. This is an adult classic book, and I gave this book 4 stars. So this book is a compendium of fairy tales written by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen back in the 1800s. It doesn't read as such with the writing style, but the way that the fairy tales, the plot of the fairy tales, whoo, it definitely reads like classic fairy tales compared to modern. My overall thoughts were that these fairy tales shocked me to begin with because Hans Christian Andersen does not take a light, fluffy route with his fairy tales. They are extremely shocking. They are extremely dark at certain points. Yeah, there are things... Shocking is the best word that I can use. Not shocking as in appalling, but shocking as in it shocked me a lot of the time. And so, getting through the first couple of stories in this compendium, I was filled with a lot of shock, thinking, I'm going into a cozy, warm, lovely set of fairy tales, and this is going to be so nice, and I'll have my cup of tea or cup of coffee and just sit there and read something nice and sweet, and no, boy was I wrong, no. They are harsh, they are shocking, as I said, but I thought all in all, once I got used to the shockingness of Hans Christian Andersen's stories, I did enjoy it. 4 stars from me. And the final book that I read for the month of July was a reread for me because it was a buddy read that we did over on my Discord, which was this book, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Okay, basic premise of this book is that we have people who go to a stranded, deserted island, basically, for a wedding reception. Everyone enters the island alive. Not everyone's going to leave that way. We deal with then and now multi-perspective. So this reread was good, however my rating was not as good as last time. I gave this book 4 stars this time. I gave it 5 stars last year. I just think that I've had more experience with thrillers, and in comparison to the reads I've had so far this year, this book didn't measure up to be a 5-star read, but it was a 4-star read. It's slow, it takes a long time to get anywhere, but once it gets somewhere, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But just be ready for a ton of character building along the way, especially for the first half. I gave this book 4 stars. And now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call these are the books that I read for the month of July 2021. Which books did you read in the month of July? Let me know in the comments below, and if you play let me know because I want to watch you play the game. But in the meantime, this video has gone on long enough, so that is where I am going to leave it, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!